Look at us.
So, my name is Ross Papel. This is the Ross Paper Scissors podcast. Today's kind of like a audio test, how my friends at the Extraordinary Excellence podcast put it, bantering beginnings. Don't really have a topic, don't really have a thing to talk about specifically. Dennis keeps asking me, and I won't tell him because I don't know. We're just testing the equipment, seeing how this works out. But, I hope we get some good stuff out of here. I have questions prepared for Dennis that he doesn't know about, but we're not talking philosophy or anything like that.
Oh, thank God, because I'm stupid.
Yeah, okay. So I guess first off, though, the Ross Paper Scissors podcast. What is the Ross Paper Scissors podcast? Basically, I had the idea to do a podcast a while ago, and I never went for it because I was just like, whatever, it's a podcast, whatever. But I always thought that it was important to have a podcast. A lot of people will compare it to Joe Rogan's, but I mean, I love his podcast. But the way that I look at it is building deep relationships with people. And I think the main mission of what I want to do is kind of peel back the guises or the preconceived notions that people have of other people from other walks of life that they're unfamiliar with. And when I think about that, like I have friends like Dennis that are
Hi.
that are, he's a guy that I went to school with. We've known each other for since elementary school, however long it is.
Yeah.
And we, in the beginning, actually hated each other. It was more so I hated him, and he was just an innocent bystander who just took the brunt of everything that I threw at him.
I just wanted Ross to be my friend, and he just did not want me to be his friend.
I didn't want to be his friend. And, now it's flipped around, and he was in my bridal party. So there's people like that. I think it's important to flesh out relationships, how we got to this point. For people to understand how growth of relationships can happen. I don't claim to be an expert in anything, but I've definitely seen and been through some stuff that I think as it can help other people. I know successful business owners, both conventional and information age business. I know people with 250,000 followers on Instagram and are quote unquote influencers. I know millionaires. I know people that have played high-level athletics and professional sports. I know people that are in the auto industry. I know people from, I'd like to say, most walks of life. And I'd really like to be able to shed light on those types of people because I feel like a lot of times you see someone who has a lot of money or drives a nice car or has 250,000 followers on Instagram or, has a beard and wears basketball jerseys or whatever, and you think a certain thing about them. You have a preconceived notion. You have a prejudice. Whether it's terrible or not, most people think something about someone when they see something. And I want to be able to have those types of people on my podcast where I can just get to know them through stories and, different perspectives and how they grew up and make my listeners say, hey, they're just a normal person who, whatever, worked their ass off and built the company or, they don't like tuna fish sandwiches just like I don't. I don't know.
You don't like tuna?
I love tuna.
Oh, I was about to say, like...
Anthony Spark does not like tuna.
Gotcha.
Which we'll have him on here eventually, and he will tell the story of why he doesn't like tuna. So yeah. So here we are. Ross Paper Scissors podcast. Dennis was nice enough to lend his assistance. He said he would be the Jamie to my Joe Rogan.
I don't know who Jamie is, so that was kind of your name given, but...
Obviously, Dennis does not watch a lot of Joe Rogan. Jamie's the guy who does all his behind-the-scenes stuff.
Gotcha. Cool.
But thanks for your commitment.
Yeah, no problem. I enjoy
your
it.
blind commitment.
That's fine. Listen, man, I enjoy the podcasting stuff, as you know. I have my own fantasy football podcast.
We will get into that.
Okay.
We
cool.
will.
All right, I'll just stop talking.
But I wanted to say also, like I said, this was an idea that I had, but I didn't run with it for a while. And it wasn't until my buddy Anthony Spark, I went to his house for something, and I told him a story about something ridiculous, but I'm a pretty good storyteller. And he was like, wow, he's like, you should start a podcast and just like tell stories or whatever. And I was like, oh, haha, okay. But Anthony's someone I hold in very, very high esteem and is very successful in my opinion. So I was like, hey, that, it like hit me hard when he was like, you should start a podcast, bro. So I was like, all right, I'll do that maybe. And then not even a few days later, I was talking to Pastor Mike Signorelli of V1 Church, and he said basically the same thing after watching me tell a funny story. I'm pretty sure it was the story I told about a kid throwing up in my math class back in high school. I posted it on my story, and Pastor Mike's like, wow, you should make a podcast. And I was like, you know what? 2 people I hold in such high esteem just said I should make a podcast, so I'm going to do it. So here we are. And credits to Alex Law for coming up with the name. He came up with the Ross, Paper, Scissors, and I love it. And it's not a niche thing. And rock, paper, scissors brings everyone together. And, yeah. Should we play rock, paper, scissors?
If you want. Is that going to be like the new thing?
Maybe
is
that's
the
like
guest
the thing.
All right.
Best 2 out of 3. Ready?
Ready?
1, 2, 3, shoot. 1, 2, 3, shoot. Shit. 1, 2, 3, shoot. Shit. Dennis just beat me.
That's it.
Smoked. All right.
It is now
over.
my podcast. Those are the rules.
Awesome. All right. So let's get into it. So, Dennis.
Yes.
Tell us. You can adjust that mic if it's too short.
Okay.
There
Hi.
you go. Yeah, it tilts up.
Cool.
Or you know what? I think this thing.
Yeah, it does
yeah,
raise
look at
up.
that. Oh,
So.
I'd like to do that for myself. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's much better.
Yeah, definitely.
So, who is Dennis Dietz? Where do you come from? Where do you grow up from? What was it like being Dennis Dietz as a kid?
Well, first of all, I thought you were going to say, where did you come from? Where did you go? Where did you come from, Cotton Eye Joe? But yeah, so you and I have known each other for a majority of our lives at this point. Like you said, a little bit of a rough start to our friendship. And it really, we bonded over a disdain for our job that we worked in college together. We hung out all through middle school, elementary school, a little bit, and high school. And it wasn't until everyone else went away and we just were like, all right, let's just hang out all the time type of thing. And I watched you go from being just a punk-ass kid to being one of the more well-respected people I know. Just a very, very hardworking man who has a lot of nice words to say for the world. So I appreciate you, sir.
Thank you. You could get that brown stuff off your nose. No, but
Shit.
seriously though, like, what was it like growing up as Dennis Dietz? What was your childhood like? What were some things you like to do?
Yeah,
Power Rangers, Pokemon. I mean, I know you love Pokemon.
Yeah, I was playing Pokemon Go while we were getting ready to record this, so I still have the Pokemon in me. Very excited for Pokemon Snap to come out probably next year.
Also excited.
But yeah, no, I mean, growing up, it was, I lived with my grandparents as well as one of my aunts. So I have a small family, but it was always a very close family. So it was nice to have those kinds of relationships when I was young. And then just always tried to play sports, be active, and I was very much into music as I got older. So I've kind of diversified myself as a person, I guess you could say. I'm not good at talking about myself.
Came on the wrong podcast, brother.
Yeah, you're going to make me cry at some point.
I don't want to do that unless it's like really good.
I mean, it all depends. Are we getting into the mental health stuff or no?
I mean, if it comes to that, I think it's important to talk about that stuff.
Well, especially because I'm sure you're aware of it because of the fact I was open with it. I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression issues at a very young age. I was around 11 years old when I was first medicated for everything. And I think as you and I have become closer over the years, I've opened up to you a lot about some of the things that go on into my head and a lot of things that I still don't want to talk about because it's just very difficult. But I've reached a point now where I kind of just joke about a lot of stuff that is kind of like unfortunate in my life, using air quotes. So I think people think of me as a little goofball, but there's a lot behind the scenes that people don't say.
I can agree with that. And I think I can say that when we first became friends, which for context, the story is that I moved to the same town as Dennis in 5th grade. And we had met each other then, but we weren't really good friends, but we had a lot of mutual friends. So we hung out a lot. And I was the kind of guy who was always joking. mostly at the expense of other people because I was really good at that, because I'd learned from a young age, being a really short, fat kid who was, rightfully nicknamed Doughboy in 5th grade, that in order to make light of shortcomings, you need to joke about them. And I literally learned that from like a Disney TV show. But I took it a step further because I realized if I made fun of myself about my own shortcomings, people thought it was hilarious. So I started doing that for everyone else for them without their consent. So it was fun at the time. Still is fun when you have a close enough friend that you can bust their chops. But I was basically a raging jerk face all through grade school. So I wasn't good friends with Dennis at the time. But even seeing how you've grown from who you were then to where you are now, I mean, when we first started becoming friends, as Dennis said, it was when we shared equal disdain for our college job, which was Stop and Shop. Shout out to Stop and Shop.
560 crew.
560, yep. 220. That's for like 3 people that might listen to this podcast. I think I got a job in the frozen section, and Dennis was working in dairy. And so we were one aisle apart, and we shared the refrigerator freezer area. And we started to realize, like, shit, like, we're actually we got a lot in common. Like, we both like emo punk music. We both hate Stop and Shop. We both love video games and Pokemon and Taco Bell. We had basically everything in common, except Dennis loves sports, and I could give 2 craps about anything sports related. But I'll come to the Super Bowl party. That's fun.
Listen, you were our neighborhood quarterback back in the day. So.
Yeah. I keep my allergies are killing me today. I keep turning away because I think I'm gonna like explode coughing, and I don't want to do it into the mic.
Good thing it's your mic, so if you get it dirty.
Yeah, I just I guess you just put these windscreens in the washing machine or something. I don't know.
I mean, they're cheap too. You could probably just get new ones at the end of the day, but
yeah, but yeah, no. So the shenanigans that took place in that Stop and Shop greatly increased our friendship, because we were often the culprits of schemes that were hatched in the dairy freezer during the busiest of hours, during the busiest of holidays, where it would be something utterly ridiculous, and it turned into, remember that time? So, like, if you don't like something at the supermarket, or if something's broken, or you're at the checkout and you don't want it, you give it to the cashier, and you're like, oh, I don't want this, blah, blah, blah. What are those called? Throwbacks?
Yes.
Is that what they call them? So, okay, I don't want this anymore. So someone would be assigned that, and like a cashier usually, and they'd go put it back on the shelf. But if it was broken, they'd bring it to the back room, and they'd put it on like a broken shelf. What did they call it?
We had like a bunch of milk crates that were kind of set up for all the broken reclamation stuff.
Yeah. So, and they would like write it off as a business and whatever. Oh, this is broken, whatever. And I remember probably a couple times where we had gone back there. We just didn't want to work. And we played wiffle ball.
Yeah, that was a fun time.
With like, oh, look, a can of like Pillsbury, like those ones that break open, and we just like throw the dough and pitch it and play wiffle ball in the back room.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah, and then we wound up being the topic of the next corporate meeting because they had it on videotape, and we got whoever was the closing manager that day in a lot of trouble because he was just not aware.
Who was that?
It was Mike West.
Mike West. He didn't know ever what was going on.
Yeah, no, he stayed in his own department, and it was, I think, 4 of us. And there was only probably like 6 of us working on the floor that day. 4 of us were playing wiffle ball in the back for at least an hour. It was fun.
It was fun. So I played sports like that.
Yeah.
Wiffle ball on the job with not wiffle ball, although we had a wiffle ball bat.
Yeah, we were just using different things. I think at one point we considered using eggs as well.
Yeah.
But
we're like, who wants
do you
to
remember
clean
the
that
little?
up?
Do you remember the little hole that was in the garbage chute that we tried to throw eggs through the entire time?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
Mm.
All right, after Stop and Shop.
Yeah, I mean, and then something that me and Dennis grew up doing a lot was, what's the word I'm looking for? We named ourselves the cul-de-sac kids because my house was in a cul-de-sac, and we spray painted bases on on the street in the cul-de-sac, and my house was the only one connected to the cul-de-sac, so it was our cul-de-sac, so we're the cul-de-sac kids. And my mom would always buy 18, 12 packs of soda and Capri Sun and Snapple and all the snacks and goodies you could possibly imagine.
Those 100-calorie snack packs.
And she would give them to all my friends and then complain that they would eat all the things. And I'm like, we're a bunch of teenage boys. What do you think we're going to do? Like, you're buying them. She's like, well, I have to go shopping every other day now because you keep eating everything.
That's the downside to having all of your friends in the same neighborhood was we were hanging out pretty much every single day. And I kind of feel bad for all these kids that live in this, because we were kind of like the last kids to not have cell phones when we were in like middle school and everything. So we were able to just disappear for the entire day. And for the most part, our parents just know, okay, they're at Ross's house, they're at Chris's house, they're at Dan's house, someone's. Never my house, though.
Which was around the corner.
Yeah.
But we never went there.
There was nothing fun at my house.
I guess my house was kind of uncommon. My house had a complete basement with a large flat screen television with an Xbox and Rock Band and Guitar Hero. At one point, I don't know if you remember, it's probably before we were friends, I had an air hockey table. I think it wound up breaking.
I just remember the two, you had like the Golden
Arcade
Tee
machines.
arcade game, and then
Yeah.
it was like a fighting game or something like that too, I think.
It was the Arcade Classic.
That's what it
So
was.
it had like 53 some odd classic arcade games on it. Literally everything you can imagine. Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter 2, Darkstalkers, Mega Man, Centipede, Galaga, is that what it's called?
Galaga,
Asteroids,
yeah.
Mercs, every game you could, every fun game you've ever seen, basically any 2D awesome video game, it was in there. So that was pretty awesome. So yeah, so we grew up doing a lot of that. What are you doing over there?
I was texting Jennifer.
Oh, okay. Featuring Jennifer.
You see,
I don't think I've ever heard you call her Jennifer.
I do it sometimes. Just it's more professional, I guess. But
We're at a podcast, so
yeah. But at the same time, like I'm so used to podcasting, I can listen and text at the same time and not miss a beat. So
word. So I want to say, just because you kind of brought it up, but I think it'll help some people. When we first became friends, we both did a lot of partying.
yes,
Stop and Shop would have parties every other day because that was basically everyone's life was school and or working at Stop and Shop 35, 40, 45 hours. And we'd basically be like, all right, store closes at 11. Let's meet up at so-and-so's house and just get hammered. So we did that a lot.
we did.
A lot of crazy things happened that we don't have time for. But I will say, just because you were talking about mental health, I feel like back then both of us were pretty heavy drinkers.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. I mean, I fancied drinking several Four Locos in one night. And, yeah, it was pretty wild. But I feel like you, as a person who struggles with what you have, and you've grown a lot through that, the depression and anxiety and things like that, also used to do a little bit of recreation activities, which you don't really do that much of anymore, other than, you know, the occasional celebration or backyard barbecue kind of thing. So could you, if you're comfortable, could you speak a little bit to how you've grown through that or how you feel about that? Or
So
because I feel like it could help someone who's in a similar position to you.
yeah, so a lot of the stuff was, I guess, because I was diagnosed at a young age with a lot of stuff, I didn't understand like what was happening. So they tried putting me in therapy. That didn't work for me. They tried Zoloft. That didn't work for me. I didn't like the way it felt. And then, yeah, I kind of just, as I got older, and especially, we all know middle school and high school suck because kids are just obnoxious just to be obnoxious because everyone's insecure about themselves.
That's my middle name.
No,
Or it was. I
your
legally
middle
changed.
name's Matthew.
Okay.
So is mine. But yeah, so I kind of reached a point where I had a lot of stuff at home that I just didn't necessarily feel comfortable with. And I was looking for excuses to go out a lot. And I mean, I also had the benefit of I was one of the first people to get their license and have a car. So a lot of these parties that we went to, I'd wind up not drinking because, you know, I had to drive everyone. But even just at home, like I would, even at 18, 19 years old, I had people that were just getting me bottles of Absolute, and I would just chill in my house and play Modern Warfare 2 and drink by myself pretty much. And it was just, I never realized what it was doing. All it was doing was making things worse. And yes, I do still enjoy my nightly beverages after a long day of work, but it's completely different when you're having like 2 beers compared to going through a bottle or 2 of vodka a week, So
Definitely.
Yeah. Definitely a lot better now. I still have my moments where it's just kind of like the anxiety builds up, and especially I do operations for the company I work for, so a lot of the stuff I need to make sure is being done in a timely fashion, and it's very tough when I'm kind of a control freak. I feel like I have a little bit of OCD, but it's never been confirmed, so I can't really say for sure. So when things are out of my control, that's when I'm like shaking, because I know I need to get this done. And while it might be someone else's fault, I don't like to put the blame on other people. I like to take responsibility for everything, except for when good things happen. If I do something good, I give all the credit to other people, because that's just who I am as a person. I don't want to settle for anything. I kind of want to be the best, and it's created a little bit of a issue with myself where I'm constantly trying to better myself and top myself, but it also creates it's kind of like just a vortex of
I'm sorry.
The dog farted, didn't he?
He's fucking
Yes.
Holy shit, Kilo. Take your ass outside, son. Oh my gosh. It literally smells like my dog shit on the floor.
I didn't know if it was you or not, so I didn't want to bring it up. I was kind of just letting it go.
Oh my God. That smells terrible.
Yes, it smells absolutely awful. But yeah, it's just like a constant cycle of trying to be better than I can possibly be. And it creates an issue. So it's tough, and I know a lot of people go through it. But at the end of the day, it drives me to be a better person. So I guess it works.
Pursuing excellence is something that is healthy, but also needs to be monitored. And I understand what you're saying, because I've watched you grow as a person who, when something was out of your control, even back when we were younger, something as simple as which house we're going to or what game we're going to play or what the rules were for the game, that was one that pissed everyone off, basically. Everyone knows that thing, like you're playing like park football or something, like, no, it's one hand touch. No, it's two hand touch. I touched you. What the fuck? Like that.
Yeah.
And then everyone would hate each other for the rest of the day. But things like that I saw would used to really get you to boil over in your emotions. You would get emotional about it. To now, where I think you're a very cool, calm, and collected person who's very comfortable most of the time. And even if you're not, you joke about it to, I feel like, relieve some of that and feel better about what's going on. And for the most part, you don't have people like me back then attacking you all the time. So I feel like it's probably easier.
Yeah, I mean, if you ask the guys at work, it's completely different, because at work, I'm trying to help our company become the best. We're a small team. We're only 5 people. So it's like...
I just noticed you're wearing the hat.
Yeah. It matched the jersey. As you mentioned, I wear basketball jerseys. So, but yeah, it's one of those things where I think outside of the work environment, I become a lot better. But at work, I'm still trying to help build a company we're a 7-figure business with only 5 workers, and it started as an Instagram account.
Yeah, so that's something I actually wanted to touch on, because every single time you talk to me about it, I'm like dumbfounded by like the idea, the founding, the building, and then it's only a few years old, and how you guys have grown year over year, and you play a pretty big part of that. You said you run the whole operations deal with it, or for the most part.
Yeah, I kind of, my responsibility is making sure orders are out and customers are being taken care of.
So tell me the whole story. Who's because I mean, maybe this kid, I don't even know his name. I apologize.
His name's Josh.
Maybe Josh, you listen to this, or maybe just this clip, and you're like, hey, this guy's Ross pretty cool. Maybe go on his podcast.
Yeah, Josh is an awesome dude, but it's kind of weird because I'm 27 and my boss is 22, and it's like I have to listen to a kid that wasn't even in high school when I graduated high school. So
and he was like 16 or something when he started, right?
Right. So he started. It's a baseball. It was a baseball Instagram account, and he kind of just wanted to build a community of baseball fans, and it slowly grew. And as it kept growing and growing,
What's it called?
Baseball Lifestyle 101.
Look it up.
But it kind of just kept growing, and he had his collegiate career, he had his opportunity to play college baseball, or he had the opportunity to grow his business. So the dream of playing baseball kind of ended for him by his choice because he wanted to build this business. And we're at a point now where even during the whole pandemic where everything was being shut down, we were still blowing away last year's numbers. And that's without any in-person events. Like, we'd go to the College World Series. That was our biggest moneymaker outside of Black Friday. And even without having that, we were still more profitable than we were last year. So it's been great to see the growth. But really all it was a kid that had the passion to work his ass off at a young age. So he was 16 when he started this account. Now he's a business owner of a 7-figure company at 22 years old. And it's not enough. Like, you ask him and he's like, I want to start another company. I want to start another company. Eventually we're going to have like 10 different companies under one umbrella that are all 7 figures, 8 figures. And it's just going to be the greatest thing in the world. But it has a lot to do with the fact that we have a team that all of us have like that passion to work hard.
Everyone loves sports and everyone works their asses off.
Yeah. So it's a great environment, and I couldn't be happier, especially because I was working at a job that I literally dreaded going to work every single day, but I needed to go because obviously you have to pay bills. And I don't have a piece of paper that says I'm smart from college. So
you completed X amount of hours in a classroom. I don't have one of those either. It's okay.
Yeah, I feel like most successful people at this point don't, because they kind of just learned on their own and worked hard and worked their ways up.
So I know a lot of people that are either or. I know a lot of people that are very successful. I know millionaires that don't have college degrees. And I know millionaires that do. But a lot of it, I personally believe a lot of fulfillment won't come from a regular 9-to-5 job, which I think most people could agree nowadays, unless it's something you are uber passionate about, like sports or something like that, where you actually are enjoying what you're doing. But very often, go to school, get good grades, get a good job. That's what you're told your whole life. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people do that. And then a lot of people are getting out of college. They're 22. They're super hopeful. And then they're like, but now I work as a teller at Chase Bank, and this kind of sucks. And I hate corporate America, and blah, blah, blah.
And then they have $100,000 of student loans for a career that they aren't in.
Well, and what was it? This might be an older statistic, but it was something like 85% of people who graduated didn't get a job in the field that they studied. I studied criminal justice. I didn't complete it, but I went for 2 years studying criminal justice, law classes, sociology, criminology, all that ology stuff. And I work in banking, which doesn't make any sense. And it blows people's minds a lot of time when I tell them that. But I know doctors that truly love helping people, and they make a lot of money, and they're fulfilled with working however much they do, because doctors can work their asses off working umpteenth amount of hours a week.
Yeah, crazy amount of hours, especially surgeons. Like, they could be in surgery for 24, 36 hours at a time straight, and they cannot take a break. It's mind-blowing.
Nicole's cousin is a brain surgeon? He's either a brain surgeon or a heart surgeon. I'm blanking right now. But he lives up in Maine, and he's like one of the only people with the skills and capabilities to do what he does. And he's a super chill dude. Like, you just meet the dude, and he's like, hey, what's going on? Like, backyard barbecue, let's drink a beer, whatever. But then, I don't know what he's like behind in work. But, you could imagine there's nothing simple about whichever it is, heart or brain surgery. There's nothing simple about it.
Anytime you're working on the body, there's nothing simple about
Either
that.
The slip of a finger, he could kill his patient, which to my knowledge, he's really good and hasn't had any complications ever. And he's been doing this for years. So kudos to you. But yeah, so baseball 101,
lifestyle 101.
I always mess it up. But I will say this. The quality of the stuff that you guys have, even just looking at the hat you're wearing, the embroidery on it, all the stuff that I've seen, the T-shirts, it's like high quality stuff. And I imagine with that, it's not like the cheap stuff you buy at Marshall's, but it's well worth it because it's really high quality. And you guys sell everything. Like, when you say lifestyle, it's like literally like phone cases, keychains, socks.
Well, the main point behind it, and it goes along with why Josh made the company. He just wanted to build a community for baseball players, and one of the big issues is there wasn't a lot of stuff for off the field to show. Like, you can wear a jersey, you can wear jerseys, a hat of your teams or whatever. But that's just, you see how many people wearing a Yankee hat just because it's considered fashionable, and a Dodgers hat.
I did that.
Exactly. So it's gave kids an opportunity to have affordable clothing that can show, okay, I live a baseball life and this is my passion. And we have a very dedicated fan base. We have over 550,000 followers on Instagram, which is why we're able to be as successful as we am, because we have almost like a cult following. So
Nice.
Yes. But it's great because especially this year we made a lot of changes. Last year we looked at a lot of the stuff we did and we saw there was a lot of room for growth, and we changed a lot of our mindsets. So one good thing that I do like is all of our stuff is made in America for the most part. We do have a couple of things that are made overseas just because that's the only way we could get it done. But our goal is to just make it so these kids have the opportunity to show everyone, hey, this is who I am, and I love the game of baseball. And yeah.
Something you told me that I thought was really cool a couple months ago was that, yeah, it's run by Josh, 22-year-old kid with a dream and a work ethic. But you said that a lot of times when you guys want to come up with ideas or make changes, it's not a one-stop shop. A lot of times you guys do it as a collective.
Yeah, we have every single Monday we have a meeting for all 5 of us on the team, and then obviously everyone's got like their individual meetings throughout the week and stuff like that. But we're very open about everything. And how many jobs can you tell the owner of your company, like, that's a stupid fucking idea? Sorry to curse, but I've told him that too.
That's only like the 8th curse on this fucking podcast.
I don't remember if we did or not. So, but yeah, I mean, how many jobs can you tell that to your boss and then not get reprimanded for it? He'll just be like, okay, I appreciate the honesty. So I do enjoy the fact that we're very much a team when it comes to it. At the end of the day, he is still the founder and CEO, so there are times where he makes the decision because his gut says this is what we should do. Half the time he's right, half the time he's wrong, but at the end of the day, it's his company, and I just appreciate the fact that we're all heard. We all have a voice.
And super creative also as a team. Like, how, because you guys have a TikTok, a roaring TikTok too, right?
Yeah, so we've had our TikTok for almost a year now. Like, we kind of got in on the bottom floor of it because we were like, all right, this is looking like it's going to be the next big thing. We're almost at 100K followers on it already within a year.
How many views?
I don't know that off the top of my head because I don't go on
millions.
TikTok. Probably we have one video alone that's 2.5 million views. So we have millions of views.
That's pretty wild.
But it's still, when it comes to TikTok, the algorithm, it's very niche, however you want to say it.
I say niche.
Cool. So you have to be looking for that kind of content originally, and then it appears on your For You page. So it was tough at first because, most of the things you see on TikTok when you first load it up are, 16-year-old girls dancing.
Yep. But it does learn.
Yeah, it definitely does.
I don't see any of those anymore. Now, when I go on TikTok, I see video game videos, anime videos, funny videos, couples annoying the shit out of each other, people farting.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of the
stuff.
farting ones. I don't.
TikTok knows you like fart jokes, so.
Well, it's not even my TikTok. It's Jen's.
Oh, I mean, she likes fart jokes.
She laughs at every single one of them.
That's great.
Yeah.
I wish Nicole liked fart jokes as much as I did. Oh, man. No, but that's really cool. That's really cool. Maybe one day we can have Josh on here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you were saying that it's something that you're passionate about. Are there any other things you think that you grew up always doing, always loving, super passionate about?
So obviously with having a sports background, like I played baseball up until high school. I had the annoying thing of when I was playing after high school and not college ball, but it was just like those men's leagues for,
The Baymen.
Yes.
Or the Buccaneers?
Yeah, we got kicked out of the Bayman organization at one point.
How?
I think it was because we didn't clean up the fields or something like that afterwards, or maybe we just aged out of it. But it is what it is at the end of the day because it worked out. But I knew 2 guys on the team prior, 2 of our close friends, and to this day, like some of my best friendships are on that team. But I had the annoying thing of I became kind of like the superstar of that league in a way. where I was all-star 3 times for that particular league, and I'd get other teams asking me, "Oh, where'd you play college ball?" And I was just like, I didn't even make varsity in high school, so I was the definition of a late bloomer. My senior year, I was 100 pounds, so it's just like I was a tiny man. I still am pretty tiny, but
You're like a normal sized human now, though.
yeah, I'm up to 180, so I have some weight on me now.
Put on some poundage.
But the sports, like, I wanted to be a sports journalist at one point in my life, and it's just such a competitive field and it's so tough. So that kind of led me into podcasting, where I do a fantasy football podcast now, and that's kind of like my
Plug it.
It's the Damn Good Fantasy Football Podcast.
I like it.
Yes. So we are actually doing a lot of stuff right now. Like, we started a league with other small podcasts, because we're not a large thing. We get a pretty consistent listenership, but it's not to the points of like, oh, we could work for CBS or something like that. So this is how you and I are talking right now too, is because I have the podcasting history, so I kind of trying to help you become a new Joe Rogan, because I do think you have that potential.
Oh yeah.
But it's a matter of doing things that you enjoy to do, because that's how you find happiness in life. So
yeah. Yep, and a lot of times, sometimes that could be found through the people you're with. Sometimes that's found through the things that you're doing. Different for everyone. But I am thankful for my job, and I'll leave it at that, because I don't know who will listen to this. I do work with great people, though. I really like the people I work with.
Yeah, it's definitely something where you can enjoy working with the people that you do, but not love the stuff that you do. And at the end of the day, like, it's okay to just be able to pay the bills for right now, because for someone like you do go above and beyond what a normal human being would do.
Thanks.
So at the end of the day, I do feel like while you might not enjoy working where you work and you kind of see yourself in other things, like, you have the mindset of, okay, I'm doing what it takes to enjoy my life now, so when I'm 40 years old and I'm super successful, like, I can just relax and not have to really do anything.
That's it. I just want to be a dad.
That's
and that's, I'm not saying, please, Nicole, don't be that. He wants to have a baby right now. We're not pregnant or anything like that. But what I mean by that is, I want my time majority of my time. I guess you have to reword it grammar wise. I want the majority of my time to be spent doing things with my family. And the fact is that most people aren't able to do that while working a conventional 9-to-5 job. Now, it's one thing if you own a company. It's one thing if you're some kind of entrepreneur, or you do charity work where you're able to do that with your family, or build something that you can lend you the time to be able to do the things you want with your family, which, I know plenty of people that have done such that, and they're some of my best friends, and I look to follow in their footsteps. And if this podcast helps me get there quicker, that'd be amazing. But again, I'm not doing this for any kind of monetary reason. I'm doing this because I like to talk.
Oh, yeah. You don't get into podcasting expecting to make a lot of money. You kind of just get into it expecting people to learn something through listening. And I think that's the biggest thing, that unless you're Joe Rogan, where it's like you had a name before you made your podcast and you're going to have a listening right away, you're probably losing money doing a podcast for at least the first couple of years. It's a matter of getting through that grind. It's the same thing with owning a business, is how many businesses can't turn a profit for how many years? It's
most of them.
Exactly. So that's the main thing, is you got to, if you enjoy doing something, sometimes you just got to fight through the waves and just, get to that shore eventually.
That's it. Success principles.
Yeah.
That's it.
Work a job where you can have a beard and no one will judge you for it.
Yeah, which is great, because for most of my life, I've assumed that having some sort of facial hair was a level of unprofessional. Not unprofessional, but you've heard me say it.
Yeah.
Back in the day, I'd be like, oh, it's bad for business, which was stupid. I don't know why I ever said that. But again, I'm now in a position where we went on lockdown, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to stop shaving and see what happens. And now I'm like 4 months in, And I'm
It's
liking
great.
where this is going. I still haven't invested in any beard products or anything
Which
like that.
blows my mind because it looks so good.
Thank you. It's my heritage, my hairy man heritage, where basically I'm putting it on the record because everyone always thinks I'm one thing or another, which most people are right, but it's not just that where my hairy heritage comes from. But my dad's side, rather simplify it. My dad's side of the family is Russian, Polish, and Ukrainian.
Mm-hmm.
And then my mom's side is French, Italian, and Greek. So I'm hairy.
Yeah.
And I like food and alcohol.
What was your thing you used to say when people would say you're drunk? When we were going to those Stop and Shop parties, it's like, I'm Russian and I'm not a bitch or something like that.
Not a vagina.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Please forgive me. No, but there was that happened. That started at that one party that we went to at Stony Brook, where it was majority people that worked at Stop and Shop, and we were there. Yeah, that's when John Gordon brought a bottle of Jack.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, hey, and I brought like an 18-pack of Bud, and he's like, I got this Jack. You want to share it with me? And I'm like, I've never had brown liquor, but sure. And so he literally finds 2 shot glasses in, I think it was Peter's dorm, right?
I
Peter?
guess
I
it's
think it
been
was
so
Peter's.
long, yeah.
But he gets his shot glasses, and then we started playing beer pong, me and John Gordon. And I don't know, I liked it.
You liked it too much.
Well, here's the thing. So John Gordon pours himself like a gentleman's glass. It's a larger, it's not a shot glass, but it's not like a Scott. It's like somewhere in the middle. But he put it on the rocks and he's sipping it, or maybe it was dry, I don't know. But he's like casually drinking it. I poured a shot and the bottle was next to the table. And if they made a shot on us in beer pong, I'd take a shot instead of drinking beer. And then when I made a shot, I'd also celebrate by taking a shot. And if I missed a shot, I punished myself by taking a shot. So in about, I think it was 30 minutes, I had taken about 17 shots. I was obliterated actually, you know what? I was feeling okay. We had won 7 games in a row. So we were doing great. Heating up fire, death cups, all that good stuff. And then at one point I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a break. I'm going to sit down. And I sat down on this couch that just absorbed me. Mm-hmm. And I remember just sitting there, and it all started to sink in. And I was like, oh, my God. I am so drunk right now.
I fucked up.
And then I was like, you know what? I'm fine. And everyone's like, you know what, Ross? Maybe you should slow down a little bit. And I was like, no, I'm fine. And they're like, you know what? You're pretty drunk. And I was like, no, I'm Russian, and I'm not a vagina. I'm going to be fine. And everyone's like, yeah, you should probably stop. And I was like, hey. And I like screamed to the whole party, hey, who wants pizza? And everyone's like, I guess we'll have some pizza. And I shelled out 50 bills and ordered Pizza Hut for everybody.
And I don't even think you had more than a slice.
No, and here's the part. You might not even know that this happened, but I ordered the pizza. And I gave the money to someone else as when he gets here, give the guy the money, whatever. I don't even know how many pies, $50 worth of pizza could get, but it was enough for the party. And they ordered majority of the pizza was friggin' pepperoni, which I like, but you have to be in the mood for it. And I was starting to feel a little not so good.
A little.
But I was, self-talking myself. I literally went into the bathroom. You go in the bathroom when you're really drunk and just look at yourself in the mirror and you hunch over the counter and you're like, yeah. Fucking lit. Except you didn't say that back then, but like, I'm fucking good. And then Justine and my girlfriend at the time come in the bathroom and they're like, oh my God, are you okay? Oh my God. And I'm like, I'm going to be fine. You want to know why? And they're like, yeah, because you're Russian and you're not a vagina. We get it. And I'm like, yeah, it's going to be great. I'm like, I just bought some pizza. I'm like talking like Chris D'Elia. I just bought some pizza. Get me some pizza. It'll make me feel better. I need to eat something. And they're like, oh, we'll get you some water too. And they bring me a Solo cup full of water. And I love drinking water. I love water. There's water right here. I like cold water. Room temperature or warm water. Room temperature is okay sometimes, but warm water is gross to me. They bring me warm water in a Solo cup. So I'm like feeling not so good. And they bring me this warm water. I'm like, what is this? Why did you get it? And then they're like, oh, well, here, eat some pizza. I'm like, pepperoni? Who ordered pepperoni? They're like, you paid for it. I'm like, I didn't order the pepperoni. And I just wasn't having a good time. I didn't eat the pizza. I maybe might have eaten just the crust or something. And when they weren't looking, I like threw it in the toilet. And then didn't drink the water. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to go back and play beer pong with John Gordon because we're undefeated. And then he's like, yeah, but you should totally slow down. Like, we finished the bottle of Jack in like 40 minutes. And I'm like, all right, man, let's go. He's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah. And we literally were still like running table. Like, I remember he called a shot where he bounced it off the wall into the cup, and they counted it as a bounce shot, and everyone was fucking dumbfounded. And then I was like, you know what? Maybe I got to get some air. And then Panda, and it was someone smaller, not able to carry a large man, on the other side of me. I was like, all right, let's go outside. And like, I literally went to walk outside by myself down 4 flights of stairs and almost ate it. But then Panda like caught me and someone else, they helped me outside. And then we go outside and I'm sitting on a park bench in the courtyard or whatever. And I'm just sitting there with both hands in the middle of the bench with my arm up on either side of the bench. And I'm like, oh, it's beautiful outside. It's beautiful outside, guys. Come outside. And they're like, no, I think it's raining. And I'm like, I look up to the sky like a dumb turkey with my mouth open. I'm like, this is great. And like, this is so refreshing. And I was like, oh no. And they're like, what? I'm like, oh no. They're like, what? I'm like, oh no. They're like, what? And I slide to the end of the bench, lean over to the ground, and they go, Wah! And I fucking vomit everywhere all over the floor. And then I slide back to the middle of the bench. Wow, like I said, this is so refreshing. This feels so good. And then, and then we went home because my girlfriend said we had to leave. And then while we were driving, I stuck my head out the window and threw up down the side of her car. And then we went to bed, woke up the next morning. I was still drunk. And we went to get bagels. And the guy's like, all right, man, it's like $7.50 for bagels. Whatever the price, whatever the cost was for the bagels.
Are you talking like you got a dozen bagels, or did you get a bagel with like butter
got, like,
and
bacon,
cream
egg, and cheese, and some drinks or whatever? I don't know. But the guy tells me how much it is, and I literally take the money out of my pocket, and I'm looking at it, and I'm still drunk, and I'm like, I can't count this. I was like, you just take the money that you need. And I give him all my money, and he's like, okay. And he like does it, whatever. But yeah, so I don't even know how we got there.
That's what podcasts are all about. When you don't necessarily have a structure, you kind of just go on tangents.
Yeah, so that's the story of how Ross used to be an alcoholic, and now I drink for fun, for special occasions, and I like different beers. And I'm on Untapped. Add me on Untapped. I don't even know what my username is, but Untapped is like beer social media, and you check in and give ratings to beers, and you could find events and things like that. Oh, my thing is Ross Papel, so easy.
That's tough. That's really tough.
Friend me. We can cheers each other's things and talk about beer if you're into that sort of thing. But yeah, no, I used to be a raging alcoholic, drinking every other day. I'd never done 17 shots in a half hour ever again.
Yeah, no. But I would assume you probably should never do that ever again.
I won't. But see, I looked kind of like how I do now when I was 16, and I had a chin strap.
You had more hair, though.
More hair. It was buzzed, though, like this.
Yeah, I guess. I had a lot more hair back then.
You did, yeah. But I had a chin strap, and I found out at 16 that with the way that I looked with prominent facial hair and the way that I dressed, kind of, I guess, I could just walk into a gas station and buy alcohol. So I did that at like 16, where I was buying 4 Locos, Colt 45s, and 30 racks for everyone at the party.
Yeah.
And yeah, we did that a lot. That was pretty bad.
I remember there was one time I had picked up, I think it was 2 36 packs for a party, and the party was the next day, but I left them in the trunk of my Pontiac that I had, and I had to park on the street because our driveway was only able to fit 2 cars, so I was obviously the odd man out in this one. Car gets sideswiped in the middle of the night, so I'm like, Mom, are the cops gonna try to like look in the car by any chance? She's like, what the fuck did you do? So I was very frowned upon then, and the next day I was like, all right, well, I'm already in trouble, so let me party my ass off. And I wound up passing out on someone's trampoline, and I woke up because the sprinklers were hitting me the next day.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was kind of like, all right, I have a lot of those stories, I guess, but that was one of my stories.
I don't think I ever passed out anywhere. Nope, that's a lie. That's a lie. I just remembered one time I met this girl at a party who later became my girlfriend. She wasn't yet. and she asked me to drive her home. Shouldn't have done that. But full transparency, I was a fucking wreck of a human being deep down. On the outside, I was okay. But deep down, I was pretty messed up. I'm still messed up, but I've gotten a lot better. But I was drinking that night, and I drove her to her home. Don't even know how I got there. And I woke up in the driver's seat of my car. Statute of limitations means I'm okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't do stupid shit like that. You know, as a teenager, word to any teenager that may or may not probably not listen to this. If you're gonna drink responsibly. Just don't be an idiot. I mean, I don't condone anything like that, underage drinking and such. I don't want to.
And we're talking about these stories. Excuse me. And there's people older than us that are just kind of like laughing because none of the stories that we have like compare to theirs at all because there were just no rules back in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
Like you could pretty much do whatever.
Yeah, but just don't be an idiot.
Yeah.
Don't. And here's the thing. I did a lot of things to be liked by other people. That's a good one. Don't do that. If people don't like you for who you are, then they're assholes anyways.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people, we live in this age where a lot of people put up this front on social media and they want to pose a certain way or be looked at a certain way. I literally have spoken to my brothers who are two of my brothers who are teenagers who only have, if you looked right now, probably less than a dozen posts on their Instagram. And I was like, what happened to like your Instagram? And they're like, oh, you know, they didn't have enough likes, so I took them down.
Yeah, I could never live like that.
I get it. The culture that they've grown up in, much different than the one that we grew up in, which you said before, like, we didn't have, I got a smartphone junior year maybe? Or senior year of high school?
I bought like a flip phone off of you at one point because mine broke. And
Yeah.
it was like the weirdest phone in the world because it flipped
I just told that
into-
story recently to someone. I don't even know how it happened, but I had it was a Nokia.
Right.
And it looked like a normal, like if you Google Nokia, a normal phone with the big screen at the top and the keypad at the bottom, but it was split at the bottom so that you can grab the bottom and lift it from the bottom to the top over the top of the screen and then turn it horizontal. And then on the left and right hand side of the screen was like a keyboard.
Yeah, it was great.
It was the only phone that was ever like that to my knowledge. And it was really cool. And I went to John DeLuca's house and we slept over there one time and I lost it. And I made my parents buy me a new phone and they got me one. And then like 3 years later, not even maybe that long, but years later, John DeLuca's parents like got a new couch or something. And when they were moving the old one out, they found it in the couch and it still worked because Nokia.
Yeah. The battery was still like at 100% charge and everything. It was.
I don't even know how that happened. But then I was like, wow, I don't need this anymore. And then I sold it to you. We sat next to each other in Senorita
Bermudez or.
Bermudez? Is that what it was?
Maybe.
Spanish class.
Yeah, there was one of them.
And I sold you that phone for like $15.
Yeah. And then I wound up getting a Sidekick later on, which was kind of like the upgraded version of that phone.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, no, I didn't have a smartphone until I got my first, I think it was an iPhone 4 maybe.
Senior year was my first one. I got the iPhone 4 or 5, whatever it was.
I got the 4 was the first one I had with the metal edges. I got the black one. And it was either junior or senior year. I think it was junior year.
It was senior year because you were obsessed with Bloons Tower Defense, and we played it in Senior
Cafe. I still love that
Cafe.
game, which, in case you didn't know, they have a new one that's updated like weekly.
Oh.
And I still download all the updates, but I can't remember the last time I've even played it. But I have it on my phone, Bloons Tower Defense 6.
Oh, I think it was 3 or 4 that we were playing.
It's so good, but there's new stuff and whatever. Anyways, but I had that phone, and then not only that, but social media was virtually non-existent. And I had a Facebook, but I didn't even start an Instagram until a year or two after high school.
I think it was like sophomore year of college. That was when I did mine.
And even at that, like, I believed it was like, all right, I have to have this format. I posted 3 times a day. The first post would always be something like a quote that was inspirational. The second thing would be something car related. And the third thing would be like something with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that for like a very long time, and it didn't get me anywhere, obviously. But, you know, that was how we looked at it then, was like, all right, just post stuff. And now today it's like, it's got to be the right angle, got to be the right light, which I understand if you're trying to do something like that. But a lot of people rest on that. It's like, oh, this didn't get enough likes, I need to delete it. Like, who cares? I mean, I get you care. I validate your feelings. I understand where you're coming from, but I'm lending you the advice that you can accept or not. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. Unless you are a social media influencer where it might have something to do with your income or something like that. But other than that, like, social media is for fun.
Yeah. And I'm at the point now where I look back at what my old posts, especially on Instagram, where like Twitter, I'm still a monster. I'm constantly tweeting just because I love.
How many tweets you have?
Too many to count.
It tells you, doesn't it?
I could pull that up, but I'll just talk about the Instagram side of things where I was just posting like mirror selfies, like just trying to get girls' attention. And like since I've been in a relationship, I think I've reached the point now. Jen and I are celebrating 6 years next week together. And I think the only times I post now are like our anniversary, her birthday, and then like random ranger event happens. I have to post a picture of, Henrik Lundqvist and his new pads or something like that. And that's it. Twitter, I have, it doesn't tell me.
Doesn't it, at your profile?
It used to. It's also, it might also be the service down here.
Oh, you want the Wi-Fi?
It's a little late for that, I feel like.
Yeah, it's a little late for that.
17.6 thousand tweets.
Holy crap.
Yeah. And
Dang.
that's not even that much, I
I've
don't
tried
think.
to like Twitter, and I just don't. I understand that it's very powerful. And I said before, Instagram, social media is for fun. I understand it can be used for a lot of things other than that. News, business, prime example of the company that you work at. But yeah. Yeah.
What else you got for me, Ross?
Animals.
I do love animals.
Didn't you grow? I have vague memory of this.
Yes, I had a raccoon for 15 years.
That's not what I was going to say,
okay.
but that's interesting. Didn't like it was like your aunt or something like fostered injured animals or something?
My family did wildlife rehabilitation, so my entire childhood, like my family would joke around when I was a baby, like I would have to fight for bottles with squirrels and chipmunks, and we had like cages in the backyard where it was just, rehabilitating wild geese and raccoons and possums and all this stuff. And we had one raccoon that just wasn't mentally fit enough to go back into the wilds. Like we tried to release him and he would just come back to us. He was pretty much domesticated. So he just was
15 years?
15 years we had him.
What was his name?
Dusty.
Dusty.
Yeah. It was a sad day when he went.
Didn't you have a blind animal or something? Was it a cat, blind cat, or deaf cat or something?
I'm sure we've had everything at this point. It's hard to keep track. Like my grandma was also the founder of, she was the president of Parrot Society, but also founder of Parrot Rescue on Long Island. Oh. And so I grew up with, African greys, Amazons, cockatiels,
I remember the
all
birds.
over. Yeah, the birds.
Because they were right in that atrium when you walked into your grandma's house.
We're down to 3, but at one point I feel like we
they
had
live forever.
Yeah, we had like 12 or something like that.
Those big birds live forever.
Yeah, I think our African gray is like 50 or something like that.
It's fucking crazy.
Yeah. it's a lifetime commitment if you get any of those birds, and that's why a lot of people wind up just releasing them into the wild, and that's why she started doing all that stuff, was because, all right, there's a macaw just flying through the air in the middle of Levittown. It's like, what is it doing here? That's not where it's supposed to be. So
that's wild. What kind of animals do you have now?
So we still have, I just moved out technically sort of during the whole pandemic to my girlfriend's house. So we have our 2 cats, and then she has a German Shepherd there. And then at my grandma's house where I was living, she has the 3 parrots still, and then 2 cats there as well. So it's the least amount of animals that I've had. Yeah.
More normal stuff.
Like there was one point I had, just in my room alone, like these were my pets. I had 3 guinea pigs. I'd have like 4 or 5 hamsters, a gerbil, and like multiple mice. Like I just enjoyed having animals, and it was kind of like that sense of responsibility, because when I was home, I was bored, so I just had all these animals to kind of just fill the void of friends.
Wow, that's deep. I had a white tree frog in high school, and it was super dope because you just take him out and throw him on the wall, and he'd stick to the wall.
I don't think you're supposed to throw frogs at the wall.
Really fucking toss him, but I'd like hold my hand up to the wall, and he'd stick to the wall, or I'd put him on the TV or whatever. It was cool.
I don't remember this.
Yeah, and then we used to feed him crickets, and we built him like a little terrarium house with the heat lamp and all that crap.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one time he was hungry. You had to feed him like once a week. You'd buy like a dozen crickets or something. And I remember we went to Petco, no crickets. We went to PetSmart in Comac, no crickets. We wound up driving all the way to Selden Petco, which for those of you who don't know is total 30-minute drive, consistent drive. And we stopped at every pet store along the way, and none of them had freaking crickets. I'm like, my frog's going to die. My mom's like, it's going to be okay. And my mom's so fed up. But we finally found crickets for him and had a long drive home. And, yeah, it was so cool. You'd, like, put him in there, and he'd, like, stealth. And then, like, yeah, he'd, like, throw it up in the air and catch it and shit. It was cool. His name was Twix.
Was he left or right?
Before that, before there was social diversity, political diversity.
Stupid Twix company.
He was unified Twix. He was the whole package.
As soon as he disappeared, that's when Twix fell apart.
Yeah. That's exactly it. That's basically how it happened. But yeah, no, he was awesome. And now we have Kilo.
Who farted earlier in the episode?
He is a Staffordshire Terrier, whatever they call it for legal reasons, but he's a pit bull.
And he's a good boy.
He's like a red-nosed brindle mix. We rescued him from the Hempstead Animal Shelter. He was 4, fully trained, but had been in the shelter for 8 months because no one wanted to give him the time of day because he's a pitty. And my mom didn't know he was a pit bull. She saw the thing, Staffordshire Terrier or whatever. She thought it was just some dog she'd never heard of. And because my mom had like labs and shit her whole life. And then she's like, look, I got this dog. And I'm like, holy shit, I can't believe you adopted a pit bull. And I wasn't like dog racist because my dad has fostered dogs, mostly pit bulls. And he has 2 pit bulls, an American bulldog, and 3 puppies that are like a mix of something as of right now. So dogs are a reflection of their owners and the kind of love that they're given. And so, but I'm like, holy shit, I can't believe you got a pit, Ma. She's like, what do you mean? He's not a pit. I'm like, he's a pit. Look at that fucking guy. He's like 80 pounds of solid mass with a big ass box head.
Confirmed he is a pit bull. Like I've seen him.
Yeah.
He's a pit bull.
And she's like, no, I don't think so. And I'm like, Mom, fuck. I'm like, literally, I Google like red-nosed pit bull and like a spitting image of him pops up. She's like, he's a pit bull?
I do find it hilarious because it's just such a misconception that these are just awful dogs, but they're honestly like my favorites. And I'm not a big dog person, but I love pit bulls. They're just such sweet dogs.
Yeah. If you look it up, the history of dogs, which I think is actually very interesting, but you look at dogs like the pit bulls a variation of the pit bull used to be called the nanny dog because they're so loyal and protective to those who are around them. Like you can see there's always those pro pit bull Facebook pages or whatever that they post videos of like
Bully Crew.
Yeah, like stuff like that. New York Bully Crew. There's one Prestige Bullies, I think it's called, something like that. But you see these like pits like cuddling with babies and infants, and they know to be very gentle, and like they know like that they have that sense of protection. And yeah, and he's awesome. And his name is Kilo. He came from a house that apparently had a lot of dogs, a lot of pits, and we don't know what his past life was like, but he doesn't like other dogs, unfortunately. And his name is Kilo, and my mom didn't like that his name was Kilo, as in measurement for drugs.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, Kilo, Kilo.
Obviously.
Except, no. Well, that's what it was. That's what his name was. And my mom's like, I don't like it. We should change it to like Tyson. I'm like,
I don't
Tyson?
like human names for
first of
animals.
all, I think of fucking chicken.
Yeah.
Tyson chicken patties. But I was like, you can't change his name to Tyson. I was like, he's already fully trained.
Mm-hmm.
He knows sit, lay down, roll over, all that crap. We taught him paw and we taught him kiss.
He knows how to sleep very well, too.
He's a good sleeper. He hasn't moved an inch this whole time, how many times we say his name. But she's like, yeah. And then I convinced her to not change it. But then when she got his dog tags made, she changed the spelling, so it's Keelo.
I didn't even know that. I thought it was still Killo.
No.
Okay.
And if I text her, and like she texted me before, she's like, "Oh, make sure you let the dog out." I texted her, and I'll say like I'll spell it how it's actually spelt, which she doesn't like, and she's stop that. It's Keelo. All right, Mom, calm down. He responds the same way. He can't hear the difference in the pronunciation. Also, I mean, he'll listen to Key. You call him Key. He listens. So, in my eyes, Key is also spelled Ki. If you're an anime fan,
Yeah.
you know.
What's your all-time favorite anime? I'm going to put on the host hat now.
There's no such thing as all-time favorite anime. There are so many animes and so little time. You can go with the classics, Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super. If you are a fan of Dragon Ball Z, which surprisingly a lot of people have watched Dragon Ball Z, but they've never watched Dragon Ball, and I told you this a couple months ago, everyone needs to go watch Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball, the original TV show, not Dragon Ball Z, where there's Super Saiyan and super serious fights that last 50 episodes and crap. I'm talking about Dragon Ball, which was a kid's show. Very lighthearted, absolutely hilarious, literally rolling on the floor laughing. Kid Goku is one of my favorite characters of all time. Absolutely hilarious. And when you go back and actually watch it, you realize how many animes have taken from that. And there'll plenty of other creators that admit like, oh yeah, I grew up reading Dragon Ball, which was in the mid 80s, I think.
Yeah, that's another thing too, is a lot of people don't realize like even Dragon Ball Z was from 93, 94.
Yeah. And and Dragon Ball was in the late 80s, I think. And you know, shows like Naruto and all the other mainstream things that you can think of were all inspired by Dragon Ball originally. And then they've all evolved into what they are. So Naruto became Naruto Shippuden or
And then
whatever it's
Boruto.
called. And Boruto, which I haven't watched any of.
I watched about 100 episodes, I think, maybe. I don't remember exactly, but I watched a lot of it. And what I usually wind up doing for shows like that is I'll watch until I'm like caught up, and then I won't watch it for a couple of months just so I have like another bingeable show.
Yeah, so at a job that I had, it was data entry, and I didn't have to pay attention a lot. So I'd literally just watch anime or read manga, which for those of you who don't know is the comic version. It's Japanese comics, it's manga.
Right.
And it's literally the same thing, except you read it backwards because that's what you do in Japan. So you start from the back cover of the book.
And they're usually a couple of years ahead of time, too.
Yes. So like if you watch an anime that's airing in America, they're usually much further behind. It could be 50, 100, 150 episodes behind what's actually happening in Japan because it's translation and rights and all that crap. But I actually started a list in my phone here.
Okay.
And I read... It's manga to read and manga read and then anime to watch and anime watched. And I've read Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, and Dragon Ball Super up to current, which is over 520 chapters. Naruto, 700 chapters. I killed that in 2 weeks. Full Metal Alchemist, 108 chapters. Killed that in like a week. Yu Yu Hakusho, classic. You've probably seen it on Adult Swim.
It's my favorite anime of all time.
Yu Yu Hakusho?
I love Yu Yu Hakusho.
Yu Yu Hakusho is super cool. The reason why I like Yu Yu Hakusho is because it's literally about like this kid who gets these spiritual powers where he can like see spirits and dead people and crap like that. And then he's like a punk kid in school, like a legit punk, like a bully, could give two shits about anybody. He's just looking out for himself. He's got one friend who's like not really his friend, Kuwabara, right? Is that
They were rivals. They
were rivals,
friends.
but they became friends because they both
had spirit powers. Yeah.
Kuwabara. And he sounded like that in the English dub. But he literally like gives zero shits about Yusuke Urameshi.
Yeah.
Could give two shits about anything going on. To be like, oh, help, blah, blah, blah. He's like, I'm not a fucking superhero, but he would always do the right thing when it came down to it. But
that's how he got his powers too, was because, you find out in the last season, which I don't know if you watched or read the last season.
I never watched all of it, but I read all of it.
So he got his spirit powers because he died because he was protecting a little boy from getting hit by a car.
The ball was bouncing in the street.
It was a great character development show. And then like they kind of like throw a monkey wrench into the last season where it's just like, yeah, no, his dad's a demon and like a super powerful demon
who like wants him to also be evil and demon, but then he's like, you know what? I'll use your demon powers for whatever I feel like, and not necessarily like I'm going to be a superhero again, but he's like, I'm just not going to be super evil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'll kill some evil people, but I'm also not going to be, like, good.
He's like, I'm not going to be a vigilante.
Yeah.
And then I forget the other two guys' names that he becomes friends with, the guy with the 3 eyes and the guy with the red hair who's like a fox wolf.
Yeah,
pretty guy.
It's driving me nuts, too, because
I don't remember their names.
I haven't seen it in so long, but I loved that show, and now it's driving me nuts because I know the names.
It's all right.
It's like Kite or something like that, and
I know
Kurama.
Kite. Kurama is one of them. Yes, that's the pretty guy, right?
Yeah.
Kurama. I don't remember the other guy's name though, but I know that it's similar.
Yeah.
It starts with a K.
I have to look it up.
But yeah, so that was a good one. Bleach, one of my favorites. Bleach. Is that the phones that keep doing that?
Yeah. Anytime you bring it too close to the mic, it'll if you're like using
Doing
the
something,
internet.
yeah. Bleach is fantastic for
Hiei.
anyone.
That's what it was.
Yes. Not similar at all. But yeah, so Bleach is fantastic. A lot of people hate on it. I think it's super good. It's very similar in the fact that he was just a normal punk kid. It probably was inspired. I don't know which came first actually, so I don't want to make that assumption.
One of my favorites too is Bo, but it's impossible to find. It is absolutely impossible.
It's like not
to
on
find.
anime websites. It's like not anywhere.
Yeah, you have to buy like the Japanese DVDs in order to watch it, and I don't understand.
That was a ridiculous show.
It was
on Cartoon Network though. Right?
Yeah, and the best part was when it got canceled. Like the entire last episode was just pretty much ripping the network for canceling them, and it was just absolutely outstanding. The show was way too self-aware. I loved it.
Then you got anime that I've watched. Dragon Ball, Spirited Away, classic, was the animated film of the year in like whenever it came out. But which actually says a lot because it's a Japanese film that was put against other American films, which for those of you who don't know, other animated films of the year were like Toy Story and stuff like that. Most of the time were American animated Pixar Disney films. And then Spirited Away coming out of nowhere, and it's fantastic. And then similar to that, Kimi no Nawa, which means your name, another Japanese film that got, I think it got.
Wait, it means Dennis?
No. But also a really good one. That's one funny story about Kimi no Nawa. It's a story about two teenage kids, a boy and a girl, who it's like scheduled, whatever it is, like every week or every other day or something like that. They wake up in each other's bodies, but they don't tell anyone. So they are trying to adapt being another person. So at first it's like really weird what's happening. Stereotypically, the boy wakes up and he's got boobs and he's like, what the hell? And he's freaking out and whatever. But like lives with the grandma and whatever. So, but it's like this weird thing where they eventually learn how to live each other's lives, but then they realize like this isn't a dream, and they start leaving notes because they know that days have gone past because they're going to school for the person and like all that stuff. So they're leaving notes for each other, like writing notes on their forearms or like on a piece of paper, and they're communicating with each other through each other's. It's like this weird, very unique concept.
It's kind of like, I think it was a Keanu Reeves movie or something like that. That was like the mailbox.
The mailbox was the portal through time or something. But similar to that, but very, very well illustrated, very well written, very well thought out. And it was one of those movies that really like hits you in the feels. And I remember me and Nicole, this is back when we were dating, we're having like a crazy argument. And I went back to my mom's house and I was like, I'm not talking to you today. And I watched that film. Credits started rolling. Immediately called Nicole. She's like, what? It's like how she answers the phone. I'm like, I'm sorry. I love you. I don't like.
Sometimes you just need a break.
Movie just like hits you in the feels. It makes you think a lot. So definitely watch that one if you haven't heard of it. And you could get it. It's dubbed by Funimation, which is one of the biggest animation studios, voiceover studios in America. They do everything like Naruto and Dragon Ball Z. And all that
I
stuff.
like how you've talked about Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super, but you have yet to mention Dragon Ball GT.
The GT's crap.
It was great, man.
Terrible. And not canon. So
I know.
Who cares?
I know. I just like to troll.
It's so bad. If you want to defend Dragon Ball GT, you're more than welcome to come on this podcast and fight me.
Baby Vegeta was an interesting
The
thing.
concepts were cool,
Yeah.
but the whole thing was trash.
Yeah.
It was all trash.
Yeah.
They tried to make it like Dragon Ball, but it wasn't,
Mm-hmm.
and that made it bad. And they're like, let's make Goku a kid again. And then he's a kid,
And he's still more powerful than like
still more powerful
everything.
than everyone. Trunks, who prior was a prodigy, Goten as well, who was a prodigy as far as strength and training, all that stuff, totally devolved.
Well, that's
Like Trunks is literally getting the life beaten out of his being and doesn't even go Super Saiyan to defend himself.
one of the things that drove me nuts about Dragon Ball Z in particular, though, is Gohan is clearly like super, super powerful. Like he's probably the most powerful of the characters if you really look
If
into
he
it.
trained and all that stuff. I
And
think
they're
it was
just like, nah.
Piccolo and Kami, or maybe just Piccolo. One of them said like he has the more potential than anyone.
Right. But it's just, Chi-Chi wants him to read books, so he's going to read books.
And then Goku's like, okay, that's fine.
But even in
I'll save the universe by myself.
Yeah, even in Dragon Ball Super, though, like they try to bring him into the Tournament of Power, and it's just okay. He hasn't really been training the way he should be, and he probably could have kicked everyone's asses if he trained.
Yeah, the power scaling is kind of not so good.
Yeah, the Ultra Instinct stuff. Like I feel like, first of all, Super Saiyan God, they were just like, all right, it doesn't matter. Like right after the Beerus movie, they're like, it doesn't matter because now blue hair comes. Okay, now Ultra Instinct's here.
Well, here's the thing that if you read the manga, it does differentiate the differences between God and Blue. Because there's a scene where, so like when Goku first goes Super Saiyan 3 versing Boo, Fat Boo, and he's like, oh, this is Super Saiyan 1, this is Super Saiyan 2, and this is Super Saiyan 3, something I've been working on, whatever. And he goes and fun fact, when I don't know if anyone knows this, some people do, I think it's pretty well known, but when he was screaming, the voice actor, to go Super Saiyan 3, when he was screaming, he screamed so hard for so long that he actually passed out, which is hilarious. But yeah, so anyways, Super Saiyan 3, very powerful, but drains energy very quickly. So that was like a thing. So
I remember that from the Budokai games, too.
Right.
They made sure that if you went Super Saiyan 3, like you can kick their asses, but you're losing health the entire time.
Right. So they were like, all right, we're going to go a different route from 3 and go to God form or whatever. So, but then in the manga, when Goku and Vegeta are fighting Goku Black and Zamasu, there's a part where Vegeta's doing his whole pride thing. I'm a Saiyan
Prince.
You imbecile. Kakarot. He like rushes at Zamasu or Goku Black, and he transforms between Super Saiyan God and Super Saiyan Blue, because in the God form he's less powerful but much more agile. And then in the blue form, he's much more powerful but less agile. So he's like running or flying at Goku Black, and he literally he's like shooting beams at him or whatever he's doing, and he's like red to dodge it, and then blue to punch him, and then red to dodge it, and blue to punch him, which is a really cool thing that they did in the manga, but then they didn't do it in the show, which the show part came first. But I like that the manga did that, and they're fleshing it out much more. The anime started first, then the manga. Now the anime stopped for almost over a year now, 2 years or something now at this point, and the manga has continued. So now it's actually far beyond that. It's better. Toritaro, I think, is the guy writing it. It's pretty good though, but interesting. I get what you're saying though. And then I'm just gonna throw this out there. We don't have to talk about anime anymore, but I'm just gonna throw this out there. Animes to watch: Death Note.
I've heard nothing but good things.
Fantastic. 23 episodes. 18, 20-minute episodes, super easy to watch. Do not watch the Netflix adaptation. It's horrendous. Watch the original anime. It's a story about a kid who finds a notebook that if you write someone's name in it, they die. So it's and he's like a straight A student. His dad's a police officer, a detective. So it goes crazy. It's super cerebral. It's a very cerebral show.
It sounds like it's almost like Mean Girls, but the Japanese version.
Totally. Cowboy Bebop, classic. It's like a group of bounty hunters. Every episode is like a totally different thing. They're not very strung together. Like episode ends with the cat, and then the next episode is fat. It's not like that. It could be a month later, totally other side, whatever. So that's interesting. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, very good. Bleach, good. Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Hunter x Hunter, I've heard a lot about
Hunter
lately.
Hunter is good. I'm not caught up. Hunter x Hunter is very good. One Punch Man, fantastic. Love stories like that where it's literally this guy made a comic on like a freaking napkin, and then it got bought by a production studio and they turned it into one of the best animes on television. Hilarious. It's literally about a guy who's an accidental superhero. He's called One Punch Man because literally everything he punches just explodes and dies automatically. And he keeps waiting for like these imminent threats that come to Earth that are like, oh, we're going to destroy the planet, blah. And then he literally just punches them one time and they die. And he's like, fuck, I thought this was going to be fun and I'd actually have a good fight. And they say, hey, Saitama, Master Saitama, how'd you get so strong? Well, I just did push-ups every day and sit-ups every day, and I ran a lot every day. And he's literally like the strongest person in the universe. It's hilarious. Attack on Titan, fantastic. Boku no Hero Academia, which is like Japanese Marvel, is what I tell people. It's great. Fairy Tail's pretty good. Anything Miyazaki or Studio Ghibli, which are for the most part films like Spirited Away and stuff like that.
Have you, because I know I mentioned to you in the past, have you read Solo Leveling yet? It's a manga?
No.
Okay. That's fine. It's the only manga I've read, so that's why I figured I'd bring it up.
Yeah. I wish I would, it's one of those things, if I had more time and I was willing to put in more time to do it,
yeah,
I'd read everything.
Oh, believe me, I would love to watch all of these animes and everything like that, but Valorant exists, so.
Yeah. So gaming.
Yes.
Is it Valorant or Valorant?
Valorant. At least that's what everyone says.
Yeah,
I could be wrong.
I always said Valorant, and then people that actually played it, unlike myself, were like, it's Valorant. Ugh. No one actually corrected me. Not a single person has corrected me. Everyone's like, yeah, but it's Valorant.
It reminds me of when I would come home from school and play Modern Warfare 2 Search and Destroy for hours. It's just like simple concept, and it's not like a battle royale where it's like, you drop in 100 people and it's like a search and destroy type of thing, CSGO, Overwatch together type thing. But I never played CSGO. I wasn't a fan of Overwatch, but for some reason this game, I played it because it was a free game, and I just absolutely love it. So
it's free?
Yeah.
The full game is free?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
PC only, though.
Damn.
Yeah, it's the same thing like CSGO where it's like the game's free, but you have to
skins and crap to pay for.
Which obviously I'm guilty of buying skins because this one's a dragon. I need this one, dude. It's so
like
sick.
that one you sent me. The gun is a dragon. And like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it costs $90 for the full skin pack though.
What?
Yeah.
How much is just the gun?
You have to buy like the full pack right now.
Video games is $1 billion industry. So.
For a reason, yeah. That's Fortnite had the best model, man. It's provide your game for free. People will play it just because of that, and then add cool things into it that cost money.
Apex did the same thing.
Yeah. I know that's your game.
I love Apex. If you want to squad up, let me know. You have to have a positive KD. Unless you're my friend.
Or unless you're me, who I would get maybe 1 kill every 6 games.
Happens.
I'm entertaining. I know my place.
It's fun. If I'm playing casually, I don't care.
Who wants to ride on a zip line? I do.
Deploying another variable. Yeah, I love Apex.
Did you play the Pokemon DLC yet?
No.
It wasn't great.
Yeah, you told me you'd finish it in like 2 hours or something. Right?
Yeah, it was. I mean, granted, I had 3 level 100s, so it was kind of just one-hitting everything.
I was thinking about that. Like, you complete the game, everyone's got level 100s, and then you open up all this extra stuff to do, which, like, okay, yeah, you could do the right thing and start over, but wouldn't all the wild Pokemon still be high levels?
So that was kind of like what they did was, all right, so the wild Pokemon are still like level 65, whatever, so they're not really competition for the level 100s. But they hand you either a Bulbasaur or a Squirtle, so like you can build that one up. Obviously, I chose Squirtle, and then
Dennis is Squirtle.
Yes,
Dennis has Squirtle on his phone, Squirtle in his tags, Squirtle on his car.
My Twitter avatar is Squirtle eating a rice ball.
Excellent.
But anyway, what they do is for this one is you kind of accidentally become a karate prodigy where you're training in this dojo, and they hand you a fighting type Pokemon at level 5, and you have to get to level 70 with it in order to like beat it. So obviously, all I did was I just farmed the dens with the power lights. I forget what they're called exactly. They might actually
Raids.
Yes. So I just kept doing those and getting the XP boosts. And then, I got to like level 70 and just beat it within a couple hours. $30.
Favorite games as a kid?
It's tough because there's obviously the solo player games. There's the multiplayer games. I have my most memories in Modern Warfare 2, and I would do anything to go back and just be able to.
Simpler times.
Yes. But games that I've probably put the most hours into, Borderlands 2. I've beaten that game so many times at this point, and Borderlands 3 was just the biggest disappointment, in my opinion. Pokemon Silver. I know Blue and Red were probably the popular choices, but Silver, I liked what they did with Silver, you could
I like those better.
You could do both.
I played
Kanto and Johto.
I remember when Crystal came out. Had to get it.
I never had Crystal. I had Silver and Gold though.
I played Crystal.
I do still play Pokemon emulators on my computer every once in a while with just randomizers on it. So it's just like, oh, you're starting Pokemon's Mewtwo. It's like, okay. You walk into the Viridian Forest, and the first thing you see is a Latios or a Latias, and just it's fun. The randomizers, I like them. And then Skyrim. I played so much Skyrim. Yeah,
Skyrim is so good. That's one of the first games that I probably sunk over 100 hours into without realizing that I'd sunk over 100 hours into it.
There was so many times where I'd be like, all right, I'm just going to play this for like an hour or two. And then like I look outside and it's pitch black and it's 6 a.m. and I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that happened a lot. Yeah. I love Skyrim, though. Skyrim's good. Fusro Da.
Yeah, another game that's worth mentioning, even though I still haven't played the DLCs and it took me like 3 or 4 years to beat it, is The Witcher 3. Like, just the Witcher franchise, like, I just feel like that's just a great story.
The show was great.
The show was absolutely outstanding. I can't wait for the next season.
And for those of you who don't like it,
I don't think you understand it. That's really it.
Oh, the fantasy elephants. Just like if you take 5 minutes to read a couple Wikipedia pages, you can understand it a lot better. You know, I didn't understand it a whole lot, but I guess I had a more open mind because of the fantasy elements. But it's based off a book and then the games, and it's a prequel to that.
Right.
So it's a new story. So it's not like everyone's going in dark, but there are obviously people that have a better understanding of what it is.
It also helps that Henry Cavill, Cavill, Superman, whatever. He was a big fan of the franchise before.
Yeah, he's a giant nerd.
Yeah, he was calling the people from Netflix, and he's just like, hey, I heard you might be doing this. I want to be Geralt. And he called them every single day. He's just like, hey, can I be Geralt yet? Can I be Geralt yet? And eventually they made him Geralt, which is just like a super cool story because he fits the perfect personality for it because he knows the character from the stories and the games. So it's great.
And I love how he's a man of few words.
Yes.
But he's very wise. Fuck. Shit. Basically.
It's become like some of the best
memes.
Yeah, it's so good, man. I love The Witcher, but yeah, can't wait for season 2.
Yeah, no, that'll be good. So The Witcher, yeah. Mass Effect, one of my favorite games of all time. My favorite series of all time.
Yeah, we were talking about that before too. I just never got into it, and I don't know if it's because
Mass Effect changed my life.
Okay, that's deep.
If it wasn't for Mass Effect, we wouldn't be here right now.
So tell me about it.
I will.
Right now.
On this long-form podcast of Ross, Paper, Scissors, where you thought you might learn something, but
we're an hour and a half in, something. But it's because I think you and I...
We just talk about crap, which is fine. And full disclosure, if you've made it this far, not every episode will be like this. Some will, though, because I will have my friends on here. Because, again, I'm not doing this for
You're
any
doing this for
niche.
you, pretty much.
I'm doing this because I like hanging out with my friends and I'm now better friends with Dennis now because having this conversation.
The only thing that could have made this better is if we had like a flight of craft beers in front of us.
Next time.
But it's also 11 o'clock right now, so that's
Oh, shit.
Yeah, we should probably wrap this up
Hold
because
on.
you have to go somewhere, don't you?
I do. Oh, it's not. No, I'm leaving at 1:30. I think I'm good.
Okay, so we have a
Nicole
little
and I
bit of
are
time.
going to the lavender fields. We're supposed to be there at 3, and they're in Calverton. But that's still 3 hours from now.
Okay.
So really quick, Mass Effect.
Spark notes.
Yes, which there's no such thing with that for me. Mass Effect is a game based a couple hundred years in the future. Supposed to be a realistic representation of how humans became smart enough to get the technology to venture out further into our solar system. Humans actually on other planets, not just Mars. And basically we go to Pluto, or we send a satellite to Pluto. We find this mass inside of Pluto, which, those of you who don't know, Pluto is basically a dust ice ball. And they crack open Pluto, and they find this giant mass relay, which they're like, what the hell is this? Blah, blah, blah. They figure out through scientific methods. Actually, no, before that, before they get to Pluto, they go to Mars, and they find ruins of all this technology that advances the human civilization tenfold. Humans live to 150 years old because the technology and the medical resources and everything just becomes better, basically. Then we go to Pluto, we find this thing, blah, blah, blah. We figure out that it lets you transfer to other solar systems. So then humans leave, and we go to another solar system, and we find aliens. We're like, oh shit, aliens, fight them. And then we start like this war, but then it's very quickly broken up because there is a council of aliens, because aliens have been living harmoniously in the galaxy for millennia. Humans are just very dumb, and it took them a long time to get there. So humans come into the fold, and now you play as a character of your choosing. You can make their backstory and all that stuff. And you're basically a commander. Shepard is his name. And, oh, wow, the dog farted again. Wow. Thanks, Kilo.
What'd you feed him?
I didn't feed him anything.
Oh. Did it get in your mouth? And this is what we call high-quality podcasting.
Yeah, so anyways, so you traverse through this game where you make choices for your character. There's obviously a plot line, but everything that happens is based on the choices that you make. So you can literally have a conversation, and each line that your character says, you have like 5, 6 choices to make. And that will ultimately show how the conversation plays out. And then even a conversation that you have in the first game will affect how the game plays out in the third game.
Yes, it'll affect what color light at the end destroys the universe.
Enough of that. But really, really cool for that. But I was playing this game one time, really late at night, 4 a.m., multiplayer, Mass Effect 3, with a good friend of ours, Kevin Huff. And we just were talking about, I don't even know, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, you're having deep philosophical conversations about
or
anything.
just super nonsensical.
Yeah. And basically, long story short, he introduced me to some of my now best friends, one of them being Anthony Spark. And through Anthony Spark, I met Nicole Pantino, who is now my wife.
My wife.
Nice. But yeah, so literally, if I didn't have the love for Mass Effect, and I didn't play through it, and I didn't love the multiplayer, and for whatever reason decided to become friends with Kevin Huff, we worked at Stop and Shop, so we were friends. But then play until 4 a.m. with the guy and have deep philosophical conversations that led him to talking about one of his friends who I thought was pretty cool. And I was like, oh, bro, let's hang out. And then we hung out, and I was like, hey, I like this guy too. And now he's one of my best friends that was also in my bridal party. I wouldn't have met Nicole. That's how I think about it. Mass Effect changed my life.
There you go. I thought it was like a philosophical thing, but no, it was just more of a cause and effect
In
thing.
other ways, yeah, it is very thought-provoking, the game, in and of itself. It does have these weird, I'm not sure if on purpose, Christian roots.
Okay.
Which I didn't grow up with any of that stuff. But, I mean, you play as a guy named Shepard. If you do all the right things in the game, you end up with 12 squad mates, followers. At one point, you die and you're brought back to life with the Lazarus Project.
Yeah.
There's little things like that sprinkled in there.
Type of things.
That's not the point of the game. It's not a Christian game by any means. You can like have sex with aliens if you want.
Sign me up.
But yeah, so it's just funny. But I've always loved that game. And then yeah, man.
So how do you plan on wrapping up your episodes? Have you thought that far in advance yet?
No.
Should we just cut it?
No. So, Dennis Dietz,
Yes.
what are your handles? Where can people find you? Plug some stuff.
I am TweetX the X Dietz, Dietz, not Deets is I think the way that details is spelled. The name actually came from, I started my Twitter account as a joke because Chris Ingram would always tell me to tweet the Deets whenever I had to tell a story. So that's how my Twitter became a thing, and then I made my Instagram name rather than making it Instagram related. I'm still TweetX the X Deets on
X is because 90 kids, bro.
well, that and also because Xbox wouldn't allow you to have spaces, and it started as my gamer tag.
Yeah,
So,
or underscores or anything like that.
yeah. And then, if you like fantasy football and you want advice or just, want to support me, that'd be cool too. Damn Good FFP is the Twitter handle. DAM, though, like a beaver dam, because the whole point is my podcast co-host, his name is Matt, so it's Dennis and Matt.
Damn.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, yeah, that's it.
So, yeah, you could follow RPS podcast, Rock, Paper, sorry.
You fucked up.
Ross, Paper, Scissors. All the handles are the RPS podcast because Ross, Paper, Scissors was either taken or too long for certain platforms. So the name for everything is Ross, Paper, Scissors, but the handle for everything is the RPS podcast. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Don't even have a profile picture yet. Probably by the time this comes out, I will, hopefully.
I mean, it takes all of 5 seconds, but...
Yeah. But you could go follow those for updates and giveaways. And I'm just kidding. I'm not doing any of that.
Giveaways are great to build.
At some point, I'd like to make my own merch, even if I don't sell it. I just want to make my own merch. I think it's cool. I think my branding is going to be pretty cool. My friend Mariah Trigg is working on it. I have like the 95% complete thing, which I'll show to you in person, but no one else can see it.
Haha, nerds.
They'll probably see the finished product.
So I'm not special.
I got to show you too. I wanted like 80s retro kind of like into the sunset grid kind of stuff. It's going to be something along those lines.
I would love to see that on a t-shirt.
That's what I'm saying. So, but
with
I think I'm going to do...
With a laser raptor on it.
I'm going to do like a different font and maybe change the colors maybe, but for the most part, that's like 95% what it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty hype about it. I think it looks fucking dope. Mariah Trigg, shout out. She fucking hit it out of the park.
I forget what the name of the movie was that reminds me of. It had laser raptors in it, though. And the Hacker Man. And
The
Hacker Man.
What?
Hold on, I have to look up the name of this movie because it's an Andrew Columbia movie. He made me watch it, and you know Andrew, he's very much
You know what's one of those funny, stupid movies? Strippers versus Werewolves. My uncle bought it for me on Blu-ray. I'm convinced he thought it was a funny joke. It's one of the worst movies, probably the worst movie I've ever seen.
Kung Fury, that was the movie.
Kung Fury? Let me see the poster. Oh, yeah,
I'm pretty sure it was on Netflix.
It's similar.
Yeah, it's one of the most ridiculous stories of all time.
You know, every now and then you got to watch one of those. I watch Strippers versus Werewolves, which is literally a story about this woman is a stripper and she's giving a lap dance, and this guy gets horny and like starts turning into a werewolf.
Oh.
And she freaks out and she stabs him in the eye with a fountain pen that he had on his person for some reason in his like pocket protector.
You don't always have a fountain pen on you?
And it's a silver fountain pen.
Oh, of course. Okay, come on.
So he dies.
What kind of werewolf is that stupid?
And I never thought about that. And then she like hides the body and like whatever, but then the werewolves like come after her and her friends, and so then it becomes Strippers versus Werewolves, and it's literally like they have like gunfights. These fucking miscellaneous, and it's British too, which in my opinion makes it funnier. So it's like all these British like strippers, like, oh, the werewolves are coming after us. Oh my god! Like it's
talk about werewolves in London.
Yeah, it's so dumb though. There's literally a scene where like they fill in all this shit where like the werewolves are out in the streets looking for them, and like one guy's got the good nose, so he's like literally out in the open in the public streets as a werewolf, walking with other people, and no one bats an eye. And he's like sniffing around, and he's like looking for his buddy that went missing, whatever. And he literally like climbs up a fence like he's gonna climb over, but then they zoom in for dramatic effect, and he's like, ugh, and it's like scary werewolf through the fence kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then they pan out, and the other end of the fence is open. Like he could have just fucking walked through it, but instead he like 2 inches to the left, but instead he climbed over it for dramatic effect. Stupid shit like that.
Continuity.
It is so bad. The whole movie is so bad. Oh, and werewolves regenerate, right? So if you blow them up, they can regenerate. Their body parts inch back on the floor and come back. So then their grand scheme is to blow them up with homemade fucking dynamite that apparently strippers know how to make. And then they when they all blow up, they put all the pieces in jars. So they can't crawl back together. And
I feel dumber. Like I felt
watch
like
it.
I felt like this was a great long form discussion, and now I feel dumber. Thank you, Ross. Thank you for having me on your show.
All right, so you're welcome. Thanks for coming.
Next time, beer.
This is the RPS podcast, Ross Paper Scissors. Be on the lookout for all the good things. I'm gonna have some interesting, diverse people here. Look at that shock mic. You don't hear that at all. Just playing around with it. Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't
Love you
listen
guys.
to my advice on what microphones to get, but whatever.
Thank you. Love you. Bye.
Bye.